Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike. And Mike, it is a nerd holiday tomorrow, or Saturday, the 21st of September. Batman Day for most comic book shops across the U.S. with a lot of promotions and things. And so we thought we would talk a little bit about the Cape Crusader, about Batman, with kind of everything about the character that works. He's my favorite personal character. Mike, I know he's one of your favorites as well. We just want to talk about why, in this age of comic books, where a lot of characters have seen their sales decline, where a lot of characters have dipped in terms of their popularity, Batman seems to be the one enduring DC Comics character that just continues to be at the top of the pile. Sometimes he's not, the most popular, but he continues to be their most enduring character. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about why we think that is, what makes Batman great, a little bit about just everything around the amazing character that is Batman. So, Mike, I know he's not your favorite character like he is mine, but I will kick it to you. Why is it that you think Batman, of all of the DC characters, works so well and that his popularity just continues to endure?
But he wasn't the first superhero of our genre, but he was the second one. And
Mhm.
for a long time, 50 years or more, Superman was the top character, right? World know known throughout the world, the Superman logo. It's iconic. Some say it's one of the most recognized symbols in all the world. But Batman was drawn from the dark side of our psyche, a hero born out of despair, and it's just so iconic. Uh, some likened him to the Shadow. The Shadow was a pulp character who also had a radio show in the 30s and the 40s. Very, very popular. This dark, shadowy character who, rooted out evil from the depths of the city's darkness into the seedy side of town. Well, that's where Batman lives, and Batman is all about that. He knows what's wrong with Gotham City. He knows what's wrong with the human condition. He was witness to horrific crime, and everybody knows that's what makes Batman Batman. It's just it's so rich with the human psyche to delve into that. I mean, myths from time immemorial, go back, and some of the most fascinating ones are about the heroes that embraced their dark side and went and turned it into something good. And that's what Batman's all about. It's hardwired into us. How can you not like Batman? He used to be a gunslinging crime fighter, and like the Shadow, he got tailored down a little bit, and has been developed into this amazing, iconic character. He wasn't the first big hit superhero movie, but he was the second big hit superhero movie back in 1989. And people just haven't let go. The TV show gave it the mythos a shot in the arm in the 60s, although it was really campy. But that laid foundations for what was to become. And now he's DC's boldest, most prominent character. And everybody loves Batman. Every kid wants to be Batman for Halloween at least once, right?
Yeah, it does seem like most kids go through at least a slight period where they love Batman or are obsessed with Batman a little bit. They may grow out of it or things
A
like that. But
little, a little bit of Mike trivia about Mike and Batman. When I was a kid, my grandmother asked me, "So what do you want to be for Halloween this year?" And I said, "Batman." She goes, "Okay, I'll make you a Batman costume." And the TV show was very prevalent, it was in color and everything, but I didn't have a color TV. That's how old Mike is. So this is back in the day. Some families had color TV, we did not. And so she asked, what color the cape was, and I was, "Oh, everything's black, Grandma, everything's black." And so she sewed together a little Batman costume with the little bat wing cape and the whole 9 yards. And she's like, "Are you sure it's not blue?" Because she had a color TV. No, it's all black, Grandma. It's all black. And so she made me a Batman costume
you
with a
were
little
just ahead of the curve. You got the Keaton and Christian Bale all black suit,
right,
30 or so
right,
years before.
yeah.
Uh, Yeah, I think the thing with Batman of why he works so much as a character is I think, like you said, there's a little bit of a human psyche element to Batman. I think him being just a regular human being with no powers. I think all of us at some point as comic book fans can relate a little bit to that because they don't necessarily have the things that feel like a cheat. Like, oh, Superman can fly or blow out the thing with this cold breath or uses heat vision or Wonder Woman can get people to tell her the truth with the lasso or whatever it may be. Whereas Batman, I think all of us at a base level can understand as a human being, right? It gives us a frame of reference of it's a human being at the tip top of every potential thing a human could be. So I think there's a huge part of that. I think, like you mentioned, the psyche portion of all of us, we don't experience our parents dying in an alley, but we all experience some sort of trauma or tragedy in our life. At some point, we lose someone, and you understand a little bit of that emotional portion and what that does to a human being. So I think it puts us in the place where we understand a little bit about Batman for that. So I think there's so much built into that. I think the biggest reason he does work is I think it's just the versatility of the character. And I give DC a ton of credit. As much as people trash on modern comic books and these companies now, where I got to give DC credit is, man, they have taken Batman in so many different avenues, and you have fans who are of such varying versions of Batman. And that, like, I look at my father, he grew up around the same kind of generation that you did. He loves the Adam West Batman. That is Batman to him. This whole The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller snapping people's bones and things like that. That's not Batman to my dad. My dad's Batman is Adam West, who's goofy and campy and fun. And still, my dad sees him as a hero and,
Right.
loves the character because of that. You take someone like my age, I was growing up in the 90s, the Batman the Animated Series and Conroy and that amazing cartoon and what they did. My son got into it, my teenager, because of, the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon and the Arkhamverse games that they've done. And that's the thing they've done so well is when you look at the versions of you've got the Adam West version, you've got the Keaton version, you got Bale, you got Pattinson just across screen. You throw in the blend of how many great cartoons they've done for kids. And then I think from a comic book standpoint, that's where Batman's always really stood out to me is that medium has always kind of met fans at different places. You get, your Justice League adventures where he's in space and fighting people with powers, and then you can have your detective comic stories that are a little more grounded and have that kind of Sherlock Holmes feel. You'll get stuff like Gotham by Gaslight, where he's back in the Victorian age. Like they just Batman Beyond, where it's in the future and Bruce Wayne's old. And I just think that's the thing DC's done for Batman that I don't know why they haven't been able to plug into it as well with other characters. They've tried certainly with Superman and Wonder Woman, but with Batman, they have really nailed finding different things for him to go into. And I think it just shows to the versatility of the character, which largely is because of the amount. And I think this is the part me and you really need to talk about with Batman is it's so much in part to the amazing creators who have worked on Batman. The tip top artists and writers and the folks who just created this distinct iconic look for this character. And the thing is crazy to me is like I'm a Batman action figure collector. McFarlane makes like hundreds of these Batman figures, and they just do such a good job of just subtle variations that make the character just look different, but enough that's you're like, oh, I want that version of the costume and stuff. And I think so much of that is because of the amazing artists that have worked on Batman and just how many great creatives we've seen work on Batman and the storytelling they've done.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the original creators in a moment. But when we talk about Batman, you mentioned Gotham by Gaslight,
Mhm.
and recently this year they did the Batman First Night series that put Batman back in 1939, and such a great thing. But you could take that character and put him all the way back in ancient Greece. You could take that character
Yeah, no,
and
I'm sure there's been stories.
and
I,
put
I
him
think they've done
in.
ancient Egypt Batman before and
You
pirate
could put him
Batman,
in the
and yeah,
middle. Yeah, you could put him in the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. It could be a Renaissance Batman. You could put him anywhere. I know they've done a Wild West one, right?
yep, yeah.
And it works. It's because it's such a universal sort of Jungian iconic concept. Your brain just loves to go there with Batman, and more so than any other characters, he lends himself to all those kind of things. So how much fun it must be to be a Batman writer. You could do almost anything you want with him. But we have to talk about Bill Finger and Bob Kane and how this character was created. So amazing, right? Out of the depression era, 1930s. Everybody's out of a job, and these young creative types have, they're teenagers. Some of them, 20. I think Jack Kirby is like 23 in 1940 or something like that. Everybody else was, he was the old man in the room. So they were all just out of high school. They couldn't afford college, but they needed a job, and they were amazingly creative. And here's this new medium to come along. Well, they see Siegel and Schuster making the big bucks with Superman, and the legend goes that Bob Kane asked the editor at the time, Vince Sullivan, what do I got to do to make the money? Because he was drawing, backup stories for like Adventure Comics and other stuff, and Bill was writing stuff like that too. I think Rusty and his pals was one of them, and they were like, well, how do we make the money Siegel and Schuster are making? And Vincent would come up with a new hero like Superman. And so the legend goes, within a week or so, they came in and had this concept of Batman. And how they both told it, both Bob Kane and Bill Finger, is that they did a lot of editing on it. That the
Mhm.
original design, they didn't really like it, and they went back and forth, and Bill Finger really helped flesh out, the costume and the dark nature of the character, and gave it life.
Yeah, no, it's great that Bill Finger's really starting to get credit because for so long it was just Batman created by Bob Kane, and then Bill Finger really is finally always mentioned and getting the credit he deserves. I think you look at Batman. I think the interesting thing is you have so many of those formative adventures that are there with Kane and Finger doing that, and then you kind of go into that Jerry Robinson era in the 40s and the 50s, and then him defining him more as kind of a fun, charismatic, kind of more swashbuckling type of character gets a lot of those, Batmite and different things that get added to it. And then you go back, and then I think for me, the one that I've always loved the '70s, the Neil Adams run on the character, along with Denny O'Neil. What they did with coming up with this wrinkle of throwing Ra's al Ghul, and he's got all these crazy villains, and then you kind of give him this James Bond sort of figure with Ra's al Ghul and Talia and all that that brings to the medium, and how many great stories they produce. And again, it's the versatility of the character that he can have so many of these dark pulp adventures that are kind of inspired by like the Shadow and Zorro at his origins, and then you go to more fun, campy kind of stories, and then you get Adams comes in, there's a little bit of a James Bond super spy kind of vibe to it. You go to the '90s, you get stuff like was it Doug Mensch and Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan doing Nightfall with Bane, and giving Batman even more challenges. I just think that's the biggest thing that DC has always done so well with Batman is that they have a very good idea of who Bruce Wayne is for the most part, and what they've always done, and I still think they do a decent job of this now. I think more than any other character, they have taken Batman and they have let him exist as he is, and they have built stories around him. Whereas I think so many other DC characters, it's been more, here's my story. How do I fit Superman into it? Here's my story. How do I put the Flash into it? Whereas Batman, it really feels like when folks take on that line, it is more, okay, here's Batman. What do I do to challenge him and his world? And so much of that goes to the formative creators of the character who came up with Gotham City and so many great villains for him to have. And they've really just, I mean, it drives me crazy because there's so many TV shows that are like Batman shows without Batman on it. But it shows the strength that something like the Joker can be $1 billion movie with Batman playing a very small role in it. That you have like a Penguin TV show that's getting millions of people watching it on HBO Max,
Gotham.
like
Remember
Gotham.
Gotham?
And again, I don't even like a lot of those shows, but it just shows the strength that they've done with so many characters in Batman's universe. And I think that's the thing is when you say Batman, it's not just Bruce Wayne that comes to mind for people. I think it's his entire world. It's Gotham, it's Gordon, it's Alfred, it's Dick Grayson, it's Catwoman. It's all the layers that have been built in
Barbara
by so many great
Gordon.
creators. Yeah, absolutely, and that's I think that's the coolest thing for me as a Batman fan, and why he's been my favorite character. Is not only is there something that's a connection from that psychological point of view of taking your darkness and turning it into something heroic, but I think they've just always done such a good job of writing engaging material for Batman. It's funny for me, as like as a kid, I grew up, man. Bane was the definition of the best villain I'd ever seen at the time for me in the '90s. I remember reading that story and seeing Batman getting his back broken, and just like as like I think I was 5 or 6 when that happened, and just
Wow.
being like devastated for like a month that like Batman got broken, and it made like a character like Bane like this terrifying figure that you hated, and that's what great villains are built out of. You throw in so many other wrinkles that have happened to Batman. And again, I think this just goes to the strength of creators. We have to also mention Frank Miller, his work with Batman Year One, and Dark Knight Returns, and how much that brought the character back to the dark, and then in the movies. I just think that's the thing where Batman stands the test of time for so many, is he's such a dang versatile character, because so many great creatives have had their crack at Batman, and they've always found a way to kind of keep that core. As long as you get Bruce Wayne, he's a rich kid whose parents got shot, and he is absolutely dedicated to saving Gotham. And as long as you keep those kind of core elements, you don't really lose Batman. Whereas I think some of the other characters in comics, it's kind of harder because we get such inconsistent portrayals of the character. Like Superman
Or
really
retcon.
varies wildly based on who's writing him. Whereas Batman, yes, you get some bad stories here and there, but for the most part, you can pick up a Batman comic book and Bruce Wayne is always pretty instantly recognizable. Whereas that's not always the case with the characters.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters, their backgrounds and their origin stories get retconned, and and then it's unrecognizable. I think the writers do that on purpose because they just want a fresh start, but it does end up alienating the reader somewhat. But with Batman, as long as you keep those core elements, like I said, you keep them in there, and you can't go wrong. You can put Batman anywhere. He could be undersea in the Bat sub. He could be in space in the Bat, rocket or whatever.
Yeah. Whatever
You
they
know,
come up with that
he
week.
can
Yeah.
put on. He can put on. Remember the Brave and the Bold when he went into space with the Blue Beetle? It's such a
Like a
great
bad
episode.
jetpack and a
Yeah,
bad
yeah, the
space
bat
mask. Yeah.
and the little space mask comes down. It was ridiculous. It could never work, but and it was just it's great fun to go with Batman wherever he goes. Whether he's going into the dark shadows of seedy parts of Gotham, or if he's if he's up in the what do they call the Justice League space station
Well,
thing?
well,
Whatever,
the Hall of Justice, and then they got like that JLA watchtower.
the
Yeah.
Watchtower thing. That's what I'm talking about. He could be up there, fighting aliens as they come in, and it's just great, great stuff. So for all the folks who watch us, all 311 of you, do tell us what you plan to do for Batman Day. This weekend is Batman Day at your comic shop. I know my favorite comic shops like Nelco and Dragon's Lair and Heroes and Fantasies here in San Antonio are throwing big parties. I'm sure Alien Worlds is as well, right?
Pretty sure they will. Yeah, I mean, a lot of comic book shops do, and it's just really cool to see the character get celebrated. And I think that's the one cool thing with Batman, and these kind of celebrations and things they do, is Batman still seems to be the most enduring character in terms of, yes, some of the runs lately have been a little bit not as great as some of the others, but there always seems to be good Batman stories coming out. He's the one character that seems to, even in a year where I haven't liked the main Batman line, we got Batman First Night, which was amazing, and we're getting this great story that Jason Aaron's telling with Batman right now. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff with the character, and
And
I think
I
it's
think the
just always
patent
stands out.
the Pattinson movie comes out next year, right?
I think
2025.
it's, I don't know if it got delayed to 26. I know the Penguin series that ties into that movie just started. I guess last thing we'll go here. We got real quick. We'll just do 10 seconds on it, Mike. Your favorite cinematic Batman is who? Who is your ultimate Batman?
Um, I liked Christian Bale. I liked the Dark Knight trilogy. That was just
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd probably go Bale. I think Bale did the best job of playing Wayne and Batman, where some have nailed Batman really well or Bruce Wayne really well. I think he was the best blend of all three. Let us know what you guys think below. Who is your favorite cinematic Batman? What's your favorite Batman story of all time, or your favorite Batman creator? And are you doing anything for Batman Day?
and send us a picture. of you at your comic shop this weekend. Put it in the comments below.
As always, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate everybody who does. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.